pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful. Just wanted to say we did not have an executive session this evening, so there's no notice there. And I have one more thing to add before public participation. I want to make a motion to amend the agenda for action on the 26th Wentworth subdivision plan. I'd like to make that item D on the business agenda, and you'll just have to wait in suspense until we get there. Now I invite any public participation.
We need a vote on.
Oh, we need a vote on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Can I have a second?
before I give a second, I would like to know what that is. It is my ward. I wasn't aware of anything. So if you give a quick little overview, I would.
Our 90-day clock is running out the end of the month. Despite staff attempting multiple times to contact the developer to get an extension, we have not gotten a satisfactory one. And so we need action on it tonight at tonight's meeting, or else we can get a deemed approval.
Okay, I'll second.
And can I call a vote? All in favor? Aye. 4-0. Okay, now I'll invite public participation.
Good evening. My name is Samuel Horsey. I live in Garrett Hill at 52 Wentworth Lane. This is pertaining to the police. First of all, I would like to thank all of the law enforcement personnel, state, local, federal, ATF, Border Patrol, detectives, Sheriff's Department, and any other law officials that helped in the capture of Carvan Canty, who broke out the county prison and was on the lam for 2 weeks. And can't forget the police dog. He did a tremendous job. The law enforcement personnel work long hours, going through all type of terrains, woods, and dealing with the weather. But more important, they didn't give up. Second sheet. The second sheet don't want to come up. They thought about the public, the safety of the public, and they did their jobs very professionally. And I just want to thank the police for doing an outstanding job in capturing the person. I think they need recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. Any further public participation? Seeing none, let's move to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that anyone would like to remove? Commissioners? Public? You okay, Sean?
Can you just talk briefly about the tree removal from the 88 trees along the Radnor Trail?
Which letter?
That'd be H. H and I, are they one of the same, or are they because of? Is that you, Bill?
Well, we'll answer it.
We can remove H and I. Okay. Item H is Resolution 2023-87, authorizing payment to Horgan Tree Experts for emergency tree work along the Radnor Trail, which was necessitated by summer storms during the week of August 1st, in the amount of $16,600. Who would like to speak to this? Ricky?
Yes, thank you. Taking H first, back in July 20th, we had our township arborist go out, and he does an annual inspection of the Radnor Trail for any trees that are hazardous or need to be pruned. So after completing that, he totaled 88 trees. So this went to the Shade Tree Commission to view it last month. And after they signed off, we next had to take it to the Board of Commissioners so we can get approval to go out to bid. And then I can comment on I after.
No, that, you know what, that's fine. It's satisfactory. Thank you.
Okay.
I think we pulled them, so we'll probably have to. In 1 minute, let's just take care of H. Can I have a motion to approve H?
So moved.
And a second? Vote. All in favor? Aye? Okay. Item I, Resolution 2023-82, authorizing the purchase of organic fertilizer and seed from Site One Landscape Company in an amount not to exceed $10,000.
Was the summer storms, but was I.
That was I just read.
I believe I is authorizing payment to Horgan Tree for emergency tree work along the Radnor Trail, which was necessitated by summer storms.
We just did that one.
Then it would be H. The
Oh,
sealed
okay.
bids.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I probably, you updated it. Thank you. All right, we did I then, and passed that. We'll do H. Is a motion to authorize the receipt of sealed bids for tree removal and pruning of 88 trees along the Radnor Trail. Sounds like the same issue. Can I have a motion for H? Second?
Second.
Mr. Foster, you want to speak to this one too?
Yes, we had the township arborist. He went out on a yearly inspection to inspect the Radnor Trail. And after completing that inspection, he found that there were 88 trees of various species that either need to be pruned or removed. And the first step was to take it before the Shade Tree Commission to get their approval to have these trees removed and have this work completed. So after getting their approval, we now took it before the board to be able to go out to bid with your approval.
I think that was the same one as before, so the summer storms, I guess, would be
No
the-
problem. We actually, August 7th, there was a storm that came through, and it first started with a tree that fell from a neighbor's house from Orchard Way, I believe, and we had Horgan Tree Service to go up and clean that tree up. While up there, myself and the township arborists had went through and drove the trail from Radnor Chester to Sugartown just to inspect it and make sure there was nothing else of emergency, and we found 2 more trees. 2 of those trees were mentioned in the 88, but they had deteriorated more from the storm, so we made a decision to get those down before anything else happened. So that basically triggered $16,000 removing those trees from the storm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my lettering is all mixed up now, but can I have a vote to approve H? We did I already.
Yeah, did we get a second? Did we?
We did a motion and we did a second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye, aye.
4-0. All right. The remainder of the consent agenda, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, J, K, and L. Can I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
And a second. Any commissioner comments or questions? Public comment or questions? Okay, let's call the vote. All in favor? Aye. 4-0. And we'll move on to the business agenda. First is item A, a presentation from the Willows Park Preserve, and it's their biannual report regarding progress of fundraising efforts and construction. Always a pleasure.
Okay, moving right along. I'm Howard Holden. I'm the president of Willows Park Preserve. First of all, I want to thank you all for having us here tonight and all the support that you and the township and the public have given to the Willows Park Reserve over the past year and a half. We've received a lot of accolades from the public as they're using our facility, well, not ours, the township's facility. And it seems as though that they're really appreciating the fact that the Willows is back for public use. I think one of the greatest programs we held this year was in July with the township, collaborating with the township for the 50th anniversary of the park. And the turnout of the families, the diversity of the families, it was heartwarming. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it was just a great evening, a broad community event that everyone enjoyed, and Radnor Township itself put a lot of effort into. So we thank Tammy and Ricky and whomever else had their boots on the ground there that night. I want to start off by saying that it has been and will yet be a busy season for us. We have booked 25 private events thus far this 2023 year. We have 13 of those events yet planned. And there's been a wide variety of innovative and educational programming that we have run in the course of this year, especially. Everything from health and wellness to leadership seminars, a variety of musical concerts. So we had a small, or not small, but we had a string orchestra there one night, a jazz singer another night. Personally, I think the music event that appealed to me the most was the Radnor High School Jazz Band. They were phenomenal. They were a really good group. We're doing history sessions of both the mansion and Radnor Township. We're finding people are most interested in going back to the roots of this area, understanding why there's the mansion. And we've broadened that out even more so. We've collaborated with Chanticleer, ourselves, the Willows, and Ardrossan. And it starts in the morning at Chanticleer, comes to the Willows in the afternoon, and progresses to Ardrossan as the last. And it's kind of like you go up to Newport, Rhode Island, and you see all the mansions, and you wonder, how did all this happen? So we're kind of recreating that in Radnor. It has been booked both times that we have conducted that. And we'll be planning another one in the not too distant future. That's a demonstration of the kind of collaborative spirit that the Willows is undertaking. We've done other programs, a lot of children camps and programming, tree and wildflower tours, and we even established a bluebird housing system throughout the park, which is really appealing to the birders. For facility improvements, we've done some additional roof upgrades on the solarium. It is an old roof system, and we have sealed that system for the future. We've improved lighting inside and out. And we're doing exterior painting currently. That's been the major summer project. And we've been employing a certified painting company. They are just about wrapping up the project. It includes all the exterior wood and the ironwork that goes with the mansion, and then she's looking mighty proud right about now. We have got to know the fire detection system, the sprinkler system that we installed last summer, and, the intrusion alarm that we and the township partnered to install. The ADA bathroom renovation, the fountain wall, and the terrace restorations are all be much appreciated by the public as the building becomes used more often. As I think we've told you, we have acquired an $89,500 grant with the township, which will go towards the kitchen renovations. And as some of you well know, the kitchen is the most complicated and expensive room in your house, and it's no different here. And we're working with our construction contractor to come and pull all the plans together, make sure everything is within code and compliance, and we'll be bringing it to the township hopefully in the next month or two for approval. Our plan is to actually do the actual work in January and February, and that's our two slowest seasons. The current caterer that we're using in the nice weather is using a cook tent, and they're providing excellent service. I honestly don't know how they do it out of a cook tent, but they're pleasing everyone, but that's not a good long-term solution. So that's the next thing on our agenda. And I just want to assure all of you that we are abiding by the lease purpose. Sometimes it gets a little foggy, but we are following the purpose of this lease 100%. And that purpose states to restore the mansion, to maintain and operate community-based programs and events from the leased premises, thereby alleviating the township's burden of restoring, renovating, and/or preserving the leased premises to provide innovative educational programs for all age groups, and to make the leased premises available for community fundraising events that support the preservation of the leased premises as a historic community resource for generations of Radnor residents. And in everything we do, in our board meetings, we stay very focused on that is what our mission is to accomplish here, and we're staying within those guidelines. That is pretty much it, a summary of what we have been up to. And I'm willing to take any questions anyone might have.
It sounds great. Do you have the financials? Just to know where we are as a snapshot financially, the money that you're bringing in, what your expenses are. It's great you got a grant for $90,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And renovating the kitchen, that's an important part for the caterer, and that really is kind of the lifeblood. But,
Yeah.
just which programs are working, which programs are bringing the most in, and then you are laying out a lot for capital improvements.
Right.
What are those costs as well? So
Yeah.
if you don't have them now, I would actually like you to come back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll have a full board, and if
Yeah.
Krista or your treasurer could lay them out. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I understand.
Don't
Yeah,
answer them.
we did give you a quick synopsis. At least you were supposed to get a report as part of your package.
Okay.
Did that
yeah,
not happen?
Just also, it's great in the package. I always like the stuff on the screen.
Yeah.
Again, it's memorialized, it's on the screen.
Okay.
People don't have to go back and forth. It's very similar to when the Jewish Federation was there. It's, one meeting, this meeting, that meeting, shade
Mhm.
tree, et cetera. You're speaking for them. So
Mhm.
if you could come back at the next meeting with some of those financials, I would really, really appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
no, we can do that. I'd also like to explain that right now, yes, we have laid out more than we have brought in, but that's natural for this time of the year. Our largest fundraising event is coming up October 13th. We invite you all to attend. It's called Twilight on the Terrace. It is a delightful event. It brings in a lot of Radnor residents and a good amount of contributions. We also hold a significant celebration during the holiday seasons, and that brings in a lot of families and, again, more donations. Lastly, this is what I call our financial harvest season. This is the time of year when people are paying attention to RMD, required minimal distributions and all that sort of thing to balance their tax burdens. And so that becomes a significant time for contributions as well. So we feel confident we'll have a very well-balanced budget come the end of the year.
So you have numbers of where you're shooting for, your goals for fundraising, and then on top of bringing it in for events, be
Right.
it, programming or catering events.
Yep.
Okay, and
Yep.
where you are.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I look forward to that. Thank you, Howard.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions? Commissioner Abel? Wait, we have one more question, I think, sorry.
Howard, don't go anywhere.
I did.
So the $89,500 grant, I mean, it's a great grant, but as you mentioned, the kitchen is a huge endeavor. Early estimates, what are you expecting a kitchen restoration at the Willows Mansion to run?
Yeah, all told, we're expecting to come in around 120, 130 grand. And, we feel we can support that. We know we have some folks in the wings that are willing to help us support it once, it really hits the ground. So we're feeling pretty good about it.
Do you think you'll be coming, do you expect, I mean, what's the likelihood you're coming back to the township and asking the township to cover that gap?
In a way, we have thought about that. In some ways, it's not a whole lot different than some of the other utility-based things that the township has assisted us with. I mean, it is a commercial kitchen, and should anything happen to the Willows, that commercial kitchen would be for the benefit of the township. But we don't want to go there if we don't have to.
Okay. So with the kitchen up and running, who inspects the kitchen? Is the county?
Delaware County, and they did recently inspect it, and everything's fine the way it is. We cannot cook in the kitchen, nor can we store food in the kitchen. And, the caterer is working around that quite well.
So where does the caterer store food during events?
They have refrigerated trucks, and they bring the food in with, those kind of trucks. The food's all brought in with on trucks and cooked on site. None of it's cooked in the kitchen. It's very much a Meals on Wheels operation.
Okay. So does the county inspect the tents or the trucks?
The county,
Yeah, I mean, who inspects the food being
they
stored?
have not done that thus far. They inspected the kitchen.
Okay, but if nothing's happening in the kitchen, you would think they would need to inspect where the cooking is taking place.
I can't answer that.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I understand, but I mean, it's
Mhm.
good to know. On renovations, like, do you have a timeline of when you expect the mansion to be fully restored?
It really all depends on income. I mean, if we get income, we can do a lot. Right now, we're still one step at a time. That's the best answer, honest answer I can give you.
Okay, so you have the kitchen in winter, spring of 2024. What would be the next project after that?
Most likely, we would try to do some infrastructural improvements. There's some load issues that we have a concern about. They're not emergencies, they're not critical, but we know they'll need to be addressed. And one of the things that is being sought, especially amongst those who are seeking to get married there, is a bridal suite. And in the past, there used to be a bridal suite on the second floor. We We have sprinklered the second floor, so it is inhabitable, but that area needs significant improvements.
Okay. I know a topic that you've been directly involved in is the noise issue, particularly with the neighbors that
Yep.
that live close to the Willows Mansion. And first, I appreciate you engaging with the neighbors and working to find a resolution.
Yes.
In your mind, what is the best resolution for that issue?
I think, providing some sound control or, physical barriers of sorts that would help us. Even simple things like locating the speakers in different places so that it's bouncing towards the house or bouncing towards the woods instead of going straight over to the neighbors. I mean, that's one issue we feel is relatively easy to accomplish. We saw a system that Appleford several weeks back with neighbor representation. And it makes a lot of sense to us, but it's something that we cannot afford to do right now. In essence, it's building an entirely separate sound system that the bands would have to plug into, and then we are in total control of the sound. So that would be a goal.
In your research, what would that sound system run?
We have not looked into it in great depth. We've just, been introduced to that concept. And our goal at this point is to use, the next couple months to, look into it and see what type of system we need. We may not need one as extravagant as Appleford's, and then how much that would come and budget for it.
And currently, when you do large events like weddings, the tent that's used, is the music played under the tent?
Yes.
And is the tent, is it open or is it closed?
It is mostly open, but that's one of the things we're asking the caterer, let's drop one side, at least one side. There are plastic barriers, and hopefully we can, drop that one and it'll reduce the sound somewhat. So, it's going to be one step at a time until we find the balance and the appropriate solution.
Yeah, I think to meet your goals, one of the things you need to be able to do is hold these large events like weddings. So, having, and I think it's, like I said, I think you're having good communication with the neighbors, but I don't think you want to get to a point where, you run 5 events in a month with music and you start to, build frustration and opposition if that were to be the case. So to me, it makes sense that if the township can help on this, this is a project that I think would be a good use of those funds that we've set aside.
Okay.
Something that you guys are going to be able to use long term, help with events, continue to raise revenue, and have a nice relationship with the adjacent neighbors. I don't know that the lease is currently crafted to allow us to fund that type of project. So, first I'm gonna ask Bill or Peter, the way the lease is currently written, if the WPP were to come to the board and ask the board to approve funding for a sound system to mitigate the noise, is that something that we can approve?
Well, I don't have the lease agreement memorized to that level of detail, but what I would certainly say is that it is the township's property, and that the Board of Commissioners, if you chose, could authorize an expense like that.
But could we use the funds, the 900,000 left from the 1.8 to support WPP in upgrading its system?
Sure. Yeah, I'm reading it as a yes, but
Yeah, John and I talked briefly about this. I think both of our initial responses is probably not, but we need to dig in a little further into this. As I think John stated to you, at the end of the day, it's really up to the board. As Bill said, it is township property, it is a township lease. If both parties of the lease want this to happen, we probably can make it happen. But it's a decision that the board needs to make and kind of direct us into, direct John and I into, okay, how do we make it happen? Can we just work off the lease as it is, or do we need to make an addendum or something to that effect?
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And Madam President, I'd like at the next meeting to have some clarification on whether we can do it or not. Well, I mean, we can do it. I mean, whether it takes amending the lease or whatever path we need to take, I'd like to look at that. And Howard, if the WPP thinks this is a priority project, I'd advise you to, I'd suggest you bring that before the board.
Okay.
I'd like to see it done.
Okay, I have another thought in mind.
And just so colleagues are aware, it is, the large events are creating some, I guess I'd say just concern with the loud music being played 9:30. I think music ends at 10, but it is heard quite clearly from neighbors' backyards and decks.
Yeah, no, particularly it's affecting Inverary.
But if it's Inverary, I would suspect Ravenscliff would hear some of it, and definitely Round Hill.
Yeah, but it really impacts
Yeah.
Inverary because we're at the top of the hill. You're down the valley, and right on the other side of the valley is Inverary. So, we understand their concerns, and we will work at it. I think I have a suggestion for the solution as to whether the sound system is eligible. If the township's willing to come in on the construction side and help us with the kitchen renovation, that money we could put towards the sound system. So maybe there's some wiggle room here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, let us know how we can help out, because I would like to see that achieved sooner rather than later. As I know, I think October has four large events.
Yes.
Okay. And the final issue is fireworks. So when fireworks are set off at the Willows property,
They're not. We had nothing, there was a complaint about fireworks. And that was a Aronimink celebration that had nothing to do with the Willows. The only fireworks that we have experienced at the Willows was for the 50th anniversary, which was conducted by the township.
there was no wedding party that had,
No,
okay. But if a wedding was, or if there was an event that
we would not allow
you
it.
would not allow it? Okay. All right, good to know. All right, thanks, Howard.
Okay, thank you.
One question. I think it would be helpful just in, as far as Commissioner Abel's point about the sound system, backing up again, is just to kind of get a ballpark feel for what it might cost.
Yeah.
That way we can wiggle with the money
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
as necessary.
Howard, you'll come back hopefully at the next meeting, and you can have all those numbers that we've asked.
We'll do our best.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? Any public questions?
But, I mean, Madam President, last meeting, we had we had a topic that was just for discussion, and members of the audience were allowed to come up and talk. So, I mean, I think we have to be consistent. If we're allowing neighbors at one meeting, we should allow them at all meetings.
Well, we should, but the Roberts rule says that. Let's ask the parliamentarian.
Peter, what do you think about this one?
No, I mean, that's where it comes down to.
Unfortunately, I do not have John's history in these meetings. I do agree with Mr. Abel that we should be consistent, but I don't know what is we do consistently here. I think for
We're
tonight.
consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
going to say that.
So
Thank you, Jay.
I think for tonight, why don't we push this off until the public comment at the end, since there is no vote, and then I'll talk to John and we'll figure out how to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we can get your question at the end or your comment at the end. All
Sarah,
right.
if you want to do that, take it outside, please. I mean, you know, there's a meeting going on.
All right, we're going to move along to item B, Resolution 2023-80, authorization of the payment of change orders number 1 and 2 to A.J. Jurek Incorporated for the curb cut materials and labor for the North Wayne Tree Trench Project. Contract number B-22-009 in the total amount of $15,179.85 to be funded from the contingency set aside out of the Stormwater Fund. Could I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All right, any, who would like to lead us in on this one?
Thank you, Commissioner. So this was the, as you noted, the tree trench project. So we added some, basically what it says, some cutouts in the curb to try to get a little additional street water, street runoff into the system. No more, no less, and that was the two change orders. So that much of the part of the job is complete. The job is substantially complete except for some restoration and tree work, and this was done some bit ago.
Thank you. Any commissioner comment?
Yes, Steve, just to clarify, the work's already done?
Correct. That's the way, Commissioner, many of our change orders come to you. So especially in the summer, these jobs would stop if we came to this meeting. So I informed the manager, and we do come to you, but that we would be halted and dead in the water throughout the year if we didn't do this. And this is what we've been doing for the past several years. This is nothing new.
Yeah, you build that in ahead of time.
Correct. So this board has already approved these funds as far as project cost, contingency, and inspections. So there is a contingency that this is funded at, but we need to bring it to your attention because of the amount.
And what was the change? Can you just describe it again?
So these were some additional cutouts in the curb to accept street runoff into the tree trench.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Any other commissioner comment? Any public comment? Take a vote. All in favor? Aye. 5-0. All right, we'll move on to item C, Resolution 2023-81, authorization to award the contract C-23-004 for the facilities evaluation, feasibility study, and energy audit for the Radnor Township Municipal Building, the Public Works Facility, for the energy audit for the Radnor Activity Center, and for the evaluation of ADA access to Enke Park and ball field to Practical Energy Solutions. Spot Stevens and McCoy in the amount of $96,960 to be funded from the Capital Improvement Fund as part of the facility bond approved with the 2023 budget. Can I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
All right. Who wants to lead us into this one? Bill, is it you?
Thank you,
Bob.
Commissioner.
Bob, thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
be happy to kick it off. The board may recall back in March of 2021, the adoption of the Renewable Energy and Conservation Plan. That plan had as its goals and benchmark a reduction of the reliance on fossil fuel and reduction of the emission of greenhouse gases. One of the benchmarks was conversion to 100% clean electricity by 2035 and 100% conversion to clean energy by 2050. So in line with that, and as we were going through the budget process last year, there are a series of improvements that are needed both here in the Township building and the Public Works facility. And those improvements, we contemplated taking into account these goals and benchmarks of the Clean Energy Plan. And included in last year's budget was the initial year debt service to borrow, issue $10 million in bonds to finance the necessary improvements. Then in February, we presented a very high-level overview of some of the improvements needed in each of those buildings. The roof here at the Administration Building and also the Public Works Building. You saw some of the significant, the intrusion of the rain in the roofs, the leaking roofs. We talked about upgrading the mechanical systems as well, and the lighting, and all of that in accordance with the Clean Energy Plan. So to kick that off, the process would involve a full evaluation from a professional firm to evaluate the viability of the types of systems that we can deploy here that would be consistent with our Clean Energy Plan. There was an extensive process and Mr. Norsini was extremely helpful in developing all of the parameters and the goals of this study that a firm would follow and then help provide the necessary information on the types of improvements that the Township can make here at this building and at the Public Works Building, and at the same time conduct a full energy audit for our 3 facilities. So those specs were prepared. The RFP went out to bid, and we're looking to award tonight to the firm of Spotts, Stevens, and McCoy, which is the now successor firm to Practical Energy Solutions. I think I'm saying that correctly? Okay. And so that's what's here before you tonight is the commencement of the study, which would take about 3 months, and they'll report back to the Township with an outline of the improvements that can be made, those that will be the most energy compliant and most in compliance with our plan. And by early next year, first quarter of 2024, hopefully come back in front of the board to actually go out to bid to begin the construction of that work.
Thank you. Any commissioner questions?
Yeah, sorry, I had a question. Also, it was a few months ago, we're having the study done for LED lights for like streets and stuff. Right, that's going to save us money in the long term. Same with this other one we're doing tonight. How's that other one going? Do we know?
We spoke with the vendor on that project. The vendor's contracted through DVRPC, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. We expect to hear back. They told us by the end of September, they'll have a report for administration to review, which then will be back in front of the board in October. And with your approval, they will begin the retrofit and installation of the LEDs throughout the Township. Once they go, they expect it to be about an 8 to 10 week turnaround time, and it'll be fully completed. The cost of that project, there are some rebates that will be available as we convert to LED through PICO, but that entire cost will be funded through this bond. If you recall the previous, I think the last meeting, we had a reimbursement resolution on the agenda, which allows the Township to reimburse itself for costs incurred presently when the bonds are not scheduled to be issued until maybe some future date. So that is moving along. We hope to have it in front of you in October.
Madam Vice President, if I could just add on to that, just to, in the interest of tonight's meeting, the streetlight project is separate. That's not what's being considered as part of this feasibility study. These are the, for this building, Public Works and the RAC. But they are all in line in terms of complying with the energy plan adopted by the board.
I have, just for starters, 2 questions. First of all, I know that Director Cohn, we've gone back and forth with kind of at Parks and Rec meeting what to do with Spuzio Gym, correct? So is this kind of putting the cart before the horse, or is this just something, an exercise that we have to go through? And how does this fit into that long-term plan, or has that decision kind of been decided regarding the bond?
So Commissioner Farhi, if I could, and then Tammy, if I miss
Yeah.
anything important, please help me out. We had talked, Mr. Tate referred to the presentation earlier this year. We went into some detail about this building of Public Works. Spuzio was specifically excluded from that presentation. We had talked separately about that facility, and we're not ready to invest the money for the improvements at this point. There are a couple other things that need to be figured out first. We decided to include it in this feasibility study so that at least we have that type of, the energy audit and the feasibility of the same type of improvements that we're looking to do here in Public Works. We at least have that information available should we decide to proceed
So
with
should
the
we
larger
decide
improvements.
whether or not we want to do, I think you're putting the cart in front of the horse. You should decide whether or not you want to do it, and then get the, I mean,
Well,
it's just, I feel like it's one of those things where we do studies, whether it's stormwater or this, and we got plenty of studies. And it's just one more study that is going to get actually funded, and it's going on the shelf, and then we may, if we table it or not. I'm just wondering, what's the cost of it? It's probably minor relative. I mean, it's a ballpark. It's a $100,000 expenditure. So what part is Spuzio?
Well, I'll defer to Mr. Tate if
It's
we've
on my
got that
phone.
level of
It's,
detail. But the decision to include Spuzio in this feasibility study saves us from re-engaging the same firm or going through the same RFP process to do a feasibility study should we get to a point, at some point down the road, on that facility. This way, we have the information.
All right, it's
at the time.
$6,166.
Yeah, but we'll have the information.
All right.
If
All right,
we
that's
all,
fine.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry, it's 6,100. All right, but I mean, I do want to ask that question. And then second of all, where's the overlap? I know that several years ago, do you know where this is going, Bill? Okay, several years ago, we spent a lot of money on, what is it, Ready for 100, where we had experts come in here and they said, put solar panels on our vending machines and this and that. And it was a fairly large expenditure, $60,000 to $100,000. I don't know where it was. Is there overlap here? Is there, I just feel that we're just doing things to make people happy, and then now you actually need a survey. So is there anything that they've done? Because my issue is, let me get back. You do this Ready for 100 survey, and I haven't heard anything since then. I don't know how much money we spent. There's been very little that's come to the board on improvements to make, and now I feel like we're doing the same thing here when we're looking for ways to, cut down on our footprint, our carbon footprint, et cetera. And that, if you can kind of reconcile that, that's my second concern.
Yeah, at the conclusion of the engagement with the citizens group and Practical Energy Solutions, there was a full presentation done to the Board of Commissioners on the outcome of the work that was completed by that group, which included a list of recommendations and action items for the township. Those action items were adopted by the Board of Commissioners back in 2021. What is before you tonight is the township moving forward on the energy as it is used up by this building, Public Works, and potentially the RAC. So it's 100% overlap.
Okay.
This
Yes,
is
so
us moving forward with elements of that plan that were or recommended.
Sure. So, and then my memory is not perfect. But I feel that, as we were, you said, like, we should do these things, like what were implemented, you could say what was implemented, how much was that study? I guess you are with I'm sorry, what's the name of the firm you're with? I'm sorry. Practical Energy. Have you looked at that? Is there any synergy there? Or is that just something that was done and?
So, Commissioner, I'm going to jump in a little bit before. This is Marcus Selzer from Practical Energy Solutions. So this RFP that we crafted here is a little bit more nuts and bolts. So I have to say the ASHRAE Level 2 came directly from the green team. I cut and pasted that. The other items are very specific, right? Evaluate the roof, evaluate the HVAC, see if we know we need a new roof at Public Works. If we're going to do solar, now is the time to do solar when we get that roof put in. Rooftop units, same thing here. The roof of this building is coming nearer its useful life. If we're going to replace it, we need to do that with the solar panels in mind, and also it's in here about the HVAC. So when this is all done, Practical Energy Solutions is going to give us a report and say, here's what we see about your roof. I request they have to tell us it's structurally sound enough to take panels. They do a shade analysis. What's the return on investment? All that. So when they're done, as Mr. White noted, you'll have a report that says, okay, we do or don't recommend this item. We recommend this item. Here are your costs moving forward. And by the way, we can design it, meaning Practical Energy, or another firm. So this is going to be more hands-on and with metrics you can look at, right, on how they just are telling you this is a good idea, this is not a good idea. Yeah, it's a great idea. Here's what your investment is going to be. So energy audit that came from the green team, that's the normal stuff. But then there's a lot of other things specific to these buildings, which is in the RFP.
And if I can speak very briefly to the overlap that you mentioned, the plan was very much more global as far as this is the direction we as the township want to take. And that was the acceptance that was made of that plan. And this is adding the number and like discrete actions. Like this is the type of HVAC system that you should replace with. This is the extent of the controls that you should associate with that. And this is where you should put that on the roof so that you can allow solar in the future pursuant to those plan goals. So this kind of gives you the granularity and like the discrete actions, paybacks, all of that.
No, I think it's, I would trust what you would say more than what what they're just a general synopsis is. It's very easy to go in and say, if there's light underneath the vending machine, put a solar panel on it. And that, so I'm just looking at the cost of what we're spending because it seems like overlap. It seems like it's a checklist for certain people. I did vote for it. I was not happy doing it. And when I see something like this, I'm like, it rhymes. It's not necessarily the same, but it rhymes. And where's the, stewards of the township money? Where's this going? I'm talking to you, but it's more of a general, just a general concern. But thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Madam Vice President, just to add one more thing, that each of the improvements that are recommended or that come out of the feasibility study would be back in front of the Board of Commissioners for adoption, approval and adoption. So those will all be evaluated by the Board of Commissioners and approved like any other one of our projects, whether they be under this umbrella, whether it's stormwater, road resurfacing, signals, anything like that. So ultimately, these will come back to the board for consideration once they're ready.
And if I can add to Mr. White, so this is a facility study, so we did add in ADA compliant access, pedestrian access to Enke Field from here, as well as similarly ADA compliant bridge. So that's also part of this. It's a big chunk of it.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thanks. Any other commissioner comment? Any public comment? Okay, let's take a vote. On item C, all in favor? Aye. 5-0. All right, now we come up with the added agenda item, D, which is a motion to deny the subdivision plan for the 26 Wentworth property based upon the July 28th, 2023 review letters by Gannett Fleming and Gilmore Associates, unless an extension letter is received by the township on or before the 30th of September. I made the motion. Could I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion about this? Peter? Do you have your light on?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Abel's looking a little confused. This happened before he came in. So let me explain to the board and to the audience. This is a project at 26 Wentworth under the MPC. The township has 90 days once an application is filed to act on a land development application. This project, the township has reached out to the developer for, I believe, over a week, asking for an extension to this 90-day clock, which expires on October 1st. Until today, we had received absolutely no response from the developer or its representatives. Today, we've had some back and forth, but we have not had an appropriate extension letter that gives us the necessary protections to make sure we don't blow the 90-day clock, because if we do, it's then a deemed approval. So it is my recommendation and the staff's recommendation that the board adopt this motion, which basically would be a denial motion. My office would then send out a denial letter. We have to do so in the next 15 days to the developer. Obviously, we would do that before October 1st. Letting them know that the project is denied unless we get a satisfactory extension letter from them. So far, they've attempted to send us emails, and we actually just got a letter during this meeting. But in my opinion, these are not satisfactory as of yet. But I suspect they will be giving us one, but I would recommend still passing the motion just to be safe.
Question, Commissioner Abel?
Yeah, but before we have a discussion on this, usually we don't vote on anything not put in the agenda, a week prior to the meeting, or at least with enough heads up that the community knows, the people who are on the other side of the issue have an opportunity to come in and talk. So how do we get around that, where we're throwing a resolution on at the last hour without giving any notice?
There is a state law. There was an amendment to the Sunshine Act approximately a year ago that requires everything to be on the agenda 24 hours in advance. However, if something comes up at the last minute, the board can amend the agenda by taking a vote. This board did that at the beginning of the meeting to amend the agenda to add this. Now, I recognize Radnor has a process where they try to get the agendas out and everything out in advance. I think this situation arose over the last 24 hours, and it became apparent that we weren't going to get a response from the developer and that we needed to get a vote taken tonight. That's why I think it's happened so quickly.
Yeah, but why wasn't your deadline Thursday at midnight or whatever, just so you can push that timeline back?
I can't explain that.
I want to follow up with that, with Jake's point. I did agree to make the motion because I want to hear what's going on with this. There was a time where I wanted to add something, I forget what it was, on the agenda, and I put it as discussion instead of a vote, and I was told, no, it's discussion, and you can't vote on it. And it didn't come, the board president didn't say, oh, well, let's have a vote to see if we'll vote. It was just a flat-out denial. So I'm kind of with Jake possibly on this of, we have to keep it consistent. We don't want to be consistently inconsistent as before. So I really am kind of hesitant. I don't want to screw the neighbors, especially in my ward, but at the same time, you do have to keep it consistent. And this did directly, I forget what that was. Oh yeah, it was to send the solicitor to the zoning hearing when Villanova put up that garage, or wanted to put the garage. And because it was, I put discussion, and it was discussion and a vote, I was told we cannot vote on it. So, and that was a last minute thing too. That was a last minute thing when either planning and or zoning came back with whatever they decided, or it was going to go to planning or zoning, and there was going to be a gap in the meeting. And yeah, so I'm kind of really on the fence with this, and I'll talk to the board, and I'll let the board try to sway me.
So Commissioner, maybe I can add some background to what Mr. Nelson noted. So this project was before the Planning Commission this summer. They were tabled. As I do with all of them, when they were tabled, I requested that they provide an extension. They were asked subsequent times. The 90-day clock is ticking. The fact that they were tabled was because of, items on the review letter. So there was things that still needed to be addressed. We picked this ball up a week and a half, and tried to get that extension. I will tell you, in I guess the 12 years I've been here with Planning Commission and all that, that's never been an issue. We've always gotten our extensions. It's never been a struggle. Well, this was. And we tried last week. We tried prior to that. We tried through last week. And today, we contacted the solicitor. We were unable to get that extension. And the concern was the next board meeting in October is beyond those 90 days. So if that didn't occur today, then that project would be deemed approved, and the items pulled forth in those review letters wouldn't have to be addressed because it would be approved as submitted. We did not think it would get to this point. We thought for sure we were going to get, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for sure this was coming, and even today, and this literally went up till 5 o'clock today to try to get this. So that's why, I went to the manager and also to the solicitor for this very, very specific circumstance, so that we don't get a project built in Garrett Hill or anywhere that doesn't meet the requirements of our various codes.
Got it. So the issue that is troubling for me is I don't see any paper. I don't see any paper there. I haven't been given anything. I don't even know what I'm approving or not approving.
So the solicitor noted, so this is the twin proposed at 26 Wentworth, right?
So,
and it's just saying, if they don't provide a 90-day extension by the end of the current 90-day extension, which is the end of this month, it will be deemed denied by this board.
Okay.
Like Peter said.
Deemed approved.
I'm sorry, deemed approved.
Okay.
But I agree with Peter. I am sure we're going to get that notification before then.
I'm sure. I guess my question is.
But if it didn't come, the project would not be approved, and it could not be built like it is. That's why we're doing it.
So the workaround here, and like I said, I don't like voting on anything that I don't see. When the former manager resigned, that was done where there was at least I don't even know if there was paper up there or not, but I don't like voting on anything where it's not in the agenda and not in the packet, or if it's with the Jewish Federation, not on the screen. We heard the Willows. I want to see this stuff, and I think it needs to be memorialized at these meetings. So the workaround is this, and we did it before during COVID. And that was, we had an emergency meeting, I believe it was on Robin Hood Road when they had the big, and we had literally a 3-minute, a 5-minute meeting. So that's going to be my standpoint.
I think the manager has a workaround for this so that it doesn't happen.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the form, that's the process, that's going to be my vote tonight. And it's not, and trust me, I don't want to be here any more than I have to, but I think that based on what happened with me, where I couldn't have a vote, it's got to be equitable for the commissioners as well as community members.
Hey, Bill, before you give that explanation, can I just, Steve, can you give the, what were the issues in the document? Like what haven't they done?
So if you give me a minute, to pull up the review letters.
No curbs or sidewalks, the road isn't wide enough, they don't show enough parking, they don't show, they don't have a 500-foot, the area on the plan. There's a
easements
slew
required.
of issues.
So it's a twin home, the 2 sanitary sewer laterals, an easement is required for one on the other property. An easement has to be designated for our existing sanitary sewer. And as the solicitor noted, there's questions with parking. I had asked them, 2 months ago, to keep the road as wide as Wentworth is. It's a little narrower up there by Summit Terrace. That was another thing that hadn't been shown in the plans. So they're not de minimis. They're actual, they're real items that you wouldn't want to have.
Lacking street trees.
Yeah, have a plan approved, deemed approved, without addressing all these.
Yeah, nope, Steve, I understand. And I understand that your point that it hasn't happened in the past, but, it is taking a risk if last week you weren't receiving what you needed. I really think we have to draw the line. So, we know the new rule, 24 hours in advance of a meeting.
Actually, Mr. White and I discussed this, and like I say, so out of the hundreds of land developments that come through here, fully understand that, and Mr. White came up with a workaround as far as the way the projects are approved at the Planning Commission, which I think will address this, and I think it's genius on his part to use that terminology, which I'll let him get into you with. And yes, I agree with you. But we've never encountered this.
Madam Vice President, if I could, there's 2 different issues here. The first issue is how the agenda is created and in this case amended tonight. The second issue is the actual consideration of the plan itself. So if there is concern at the board level about amending the agenda tonight and voting on it, Commissioner Farhi's correct. We can call a special meeting next month, a week from tonight, to consider this one item. If we do get the extension in a form that is acceptable to the township between now and Monday, that meeting can always be canceled. If we don't get it, then the board will meet next Monday night to consider denying the application. I think we need to figure out where we're at on that issue first, and then because all the details about the project itself will be discussed if we hold next Monday's meeting. Just to be clear, that when the issue came up earlier today, we have been pretty steadfast about not amending the agenda. John's been pretty consistent on that. He offered this as an alternative, and so it was presented tonight as an option. It is not the only option. Obviously, we'd call a special meeting. So that's where we're at. So again, going back, I think we should figure out how we feel about amending the agenda and voting on it tonight, and then that'll dictate how much more conversation we have about the project itself.
Can we do a Zoom meeting, Peter?
No. You could, we would have to have at least a quorum here.
To do a Zoom meeting on?
We cannot do, we can no longer do pure Zoom meetings.
Okay. So if he sends a rejection, if he sends a letter on Monday, then this is all moot?
Yeah, if he sends a letter tomorrow, it's all moot.
Okay, then I think that's, okay, so we can talk to to his lawyer, and
So that was one of the problems, Commissioner. He has no legal representation. And we did actually receive an email from the developer. Just have to check to see if it's from the solicitor.
I did see without outing a certain lawyer, real estate attorney, I did see his name on the, on that email. Is that correct?
I can't speak for the developer, sir. I don't.
Okay. I saw Dave Falcone's name on that email, so I would assume that that's his.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's a
think-
public document. You can say what you want.
All right, I
Jay.
think the issue now is that I made a motion and it was seconded, that we need to vote on it. The vote will tell the story as to whether we need to have a meeting, an emergency meeting next week. So everyone understands the motion since it's not written in front of you. Okay, can we have a vote? Oh, public participation, I'm so sorry. Absolutely. You're okay? Thank you. Can we have a vote? All in favor? I'm going to vote aye. That's 3-2.
Well, yes, so opposed.
Opposed? 3-2. So I gather we'll be setting up an emergency meeting next week sometime, unless we receive this letter.
Generally speaking, you need a majority of the entire board, not
Board,
just who
right.
is here.
Only for an ordinance, I thought, yeah, for a motion.
Okay, so under the charter, you might have a different rule than normal. I just don't know the charter by heart. Okay. Then it passed.
Okay. No, it passed because it's not an ordinance, it's just a motion, and the majority of the people sitting here voted for it, 3-2.
Peter, if that comes out that that's not the case, then what happens?
I think we're all moot because John is fine with the letter we got.
So we didn't even.
I just got a
It's
text.
a whole lot of nothing. All
Yeah,
right, thank
I
you.
just got a text.
Yeah, it came in at six something tonight, so.
So that would mean that we got a letter already that presumably will
So we
be
received the
adequate.
extension
Yeah.
for 90 days. We're good.
Okay, much ado about nothing. So sorry to take up everyone's time and energy. Any reports of board liaisons? Commissioner Farhi.
Do, and Tammy Cohn worked so hard to come up with this great list of wonderful events that the township has. So I just want to go through a couple of them. The big thing is next Saturday on the 23rd, we have competing events. We have Porch Fest, which is a lovely event, Commissioner Jones, in your ward. So hopefully that is going to be a success. Cross your fingers for good weather. In Garrett Hill, we have the honorary street naming after the late, great George Sidner, who was a athlete, and more importantly, he was the first African-American detective here at the Radnor Police Department. Other great events are the Pumpkin Festival, as well as we're having the Radnor Run on November 5th. The Royal Tea Dance on the 12th, Santa's Delivery. It's still summer, but we're still talking about Santa's Delivery. So that should let everybody know. But thank you. These are wonderful events, and I hope to see you at some of them. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Riley?
Yes. Yesterday, was it yesterday? The Wayne Fall Festival. Shade Tree had their own tent there in the center of the road, and it was very good. They were giving away free trees that people were signing up for, but it was a beautiful day, so it worked out really well.
Excellent. What was the number of trees they've planted since 2020?
Is this a quiz?
Yeah. No,
Just-
that was
just
what you had
remember-
to do to win the tree.
No, we lost 6 on the Radnor Trail, and 88 were pruned. So
Okay, moving on. Any new business? Old business? Public participation? Can I have a motion to adjourn? And a second.
Second.
All in favor?